Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Nicole McAllister, and I'm sitting here with Roland Muzzatti, our District 4 RTO-ERO President.
And
Roland, thank you so much for accepting to do this
I'm very
interview.
pleased to do it, and thank you and your committee for inviting me to be here with you today.
Well, let's get into it. The first question we have for you, Roland, could you talk a little bit about yourself, your credo, your passion, your principles?
You know, as I reflect on that question, I think of the three F's. For me, the first F is family. I've been very blessed with a loving family, both my family of origin and my current family. My wife and I will be celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary later on this month. We're blessed to have two sons and two lovely daughter-in-laws and 4 grandchildren, 2 boys, 2 girls, who are those 4 kids are the light and delight of our lives, The second F for me is faith. I am an ordained Roman Catholic deacon, and for me, that's an important part of who I am as a person.
Yes.
And I've been, a lifelong parishioner at Christ the King Parish here in Sudbury. So my faith traditions, my beliefs of faith are very important to me. And the last step is friendship. I think it's important to have connections with friends. And let's get in retirement. On Saturday morning, I meet this group for coffee. Monday morning is this individual. Tuesday morning, I have breakfast with so-and-so. And actually, that's the reason why I've been involved in RTO-ERO for the past 13 years. Because RTO is a great avenue for connections, for relationships, and for, real community building.
Well, you really summarized it very well, the 3F. I like that. And I might be using that in future references.
Well, there's actually a 4th F, fun. It's always good to have fun in those things too. So,
well, that's true. So family, I get family is very important, and faith and friendship. Those are all 3 different areas that helps you through life.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you now, let's get into the educator part. What made you become an educator, and what path led you to that profession?
I've always, right from the beginning, I've always loved learning and teaching. That was always a passion, and I was good at it, I wasn't good at playing sports or musical instruments or doing any of that stuff, but I was, I did love learning. And then 2, I was very fortunate throughout my, my years of going to school that I had good teachers. And in particular, when I went to high school, I had good French teachers, and they kind of became my role models, and they inspired me. So when I did go to university, I majored in French and English so that I could become a French and English teacher. And then after the 26 years, I became by the way, this was secondary, in the secondary panel. Actually, most of those 26 years were spent at St. Charles College here in Sudbury, in St. Benedict Catholic Secondary School. And then I became a vice principal at St. Charles College, and then a principal. And then when student success first came out, many boards did program principals. And I was a program principal of student success. And then my last 5 years, I was a superintendent of education with the Sudbury Catholic District School Board. And so that brought me to the 36 years. And at that point, I retired. And then once I retired, I had a 2-year contract with the board as BLDS lead, where I was mentoring and supporting newly appointed principals and vice principals. Another great success is I was very fortunate that I basically worked at 3 places: St. Charles, St. Benedict, and at the board office. In all 3 places, there was a great feeling of family among the staff.
Now, what would be the struggles? Because you had some hard positions.
Yeah, well, the struggles were basically in the personal life, because it was really tough for me to do the work personal life balance. So, for example,
Balance.
particularly, well, and regardless of the position, like there was a lot of work, extra hours in the evenings, So at the end of the day, I took time away from my kids for other people's kids. And, that was a struggle. There were times when it was not easy. So.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be. And any educator could vouch for that. I'm going to ask you now, okay, time flies. You retired. So, how have you been involved in the community?
All right. So,
since retirement?
Okay, 3 areas basically. The first one is the church. Like I'm an active member of Christ the King. And part of it is, since I'm a deacon, one of the things I get to do now is I get to visit schools as Deacon Roland. So for example, this morning, I was at St. David's leading them or presiding at a Remembrance Day service. So it's great for me now to visit classrooms and in the whole idea of the school, parish, home partnership context. And also, like with the church, there are other meetings there that I'm involved in, liturgy, finance, so there's a lot of things there that keep me busy. Right? The second area, I'm greatly involved with L'Arche. I'm part of the Spiritual Life Committee of L'Arche Sudbury, and I'm also an associate member of L'Arche Sudbury. And once again, I can't say enough good things about L'Arche. There's only 8 large communities in all the province of Ontario, and Sudbury's blessed to have one. We don't realize the hidden treasure, the jewel that L'Arche is in Sudbury, and the impact that people with disabilities have on a community. And the third area where, of course, I'm really involved is RTO, or RO. I said earlier, I think it's 13 years I've been involved, and I got involved in the executive board. I was secretary for 2 years, first vice president till last January, when all of a sudden I became president of District 4. So to me, it's important. Yes, family is very important, and that always has to be priority number 1. But it's equally important to get involved in the community, in things outside the home and outside your immediate family.
Moving on, I'm going to ask you the word of advice, or a word of advice to the younger generation.
Although having, getting a career, making money, having fun, all those things are important, but don't make them the center of your life. Worry about your heart, worry about your mind, worry about your soul. So if that's any advice, is worry about the stuff on the inside too. Don't ignore what's inside you, inside the core of your being. And don't let the inside suffer at the expense of all these other externals, because that's the easy temptation, right? Is to let those things govern us and control us and even enslave us.
What would you do different if you were to, if you had the choice?
Right. One of the things I would do differently would be going back to those 26 years I spent in the classroom. See, the position I got as a young teacher, I was 21 years old when I walked into a secondary classroom for the first time. I replaced someone who had been fired because in those days, the expression was he couldn't control the class. Mm-hmm. So that was always in the background of my mind, that I had to be a very strict disciplinarian. So looking back on it, I think one thing I do differently is I wouldn't flex the rule book as much. I think I'd try to be less rigid and more flexible and more compassionate, I think. And so looking back, if there are any former students here who are listening to this, and I apologize if my inflexibility, my rigidity caused you harm. Right?
What would you cherish the most?
The most that I cherish are, all those encounters with the students that have graduated, and I see they're successful in their careers. They have loving families. Some of the things I cherish, I've had at least 2 instances where former students have gone out of their way to call me. They lived long dead. One lives in Quebec, one lives in, they went out of their way to call me and to thank me personally for the impact I had on their life. So you can well imagine those were very touching and moving moments that I didn't expect because they hit me out of the blue, you know. And and also I've gone to like things like reunions and to connect with students at reunions of things they remember, the gratitude they express for how, you know, in spite of myself, maybe I did help them. Maybe they did learn something from me. And the other, I think even more than that, what I cherish is now in my role as deacon, I've had a chance to officiate at weddings of former students. I baptized children of former students, and I've even had the privilege of baptizing grandchildren of former students. Well, that takes the cake. How many former teachers can say they've done
That's
that?
amazing.
So nothing beats the cherry on top. Nothing beats that cherry on top.
Oh, that's
And,
amazing. It is.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to
No,
add?
I think
Roland?
I've covered everything
You
that
did.
I wanted to say. I think, you know. Yeah, it's true. Just listening, you know, as I'm reflecting myself, you know, I never taught a special education class in my life. And yet here I am now involved with people with disability. You're right. My life in retirement has gone completely different direction. I'm doing things, totally different things that I never would have imagined myself doing.
Well, you're appreciated, and thank you again for
Well, you're
accepting
welcome.
for the interview.
Thank you for the time. I was glad to be here.